Hi everyone, Amy here in post. Just to let you know, we had a little bit of an audio hiccup with this episode, so half the show is taken from the backup recording. We hope it's not too noticeable.
Welcome to the Dreaming Machine. This is Joe, and I'm with Amy today.
Hello everyone.
And yes, it's Avatar Season 2. So,
Book 2, Earth.
Book 2 Earth, yes, the official title. So, I'm the newbie to Avatar. I've been watching it for the first time since it's come on Netflix. So, we did Season 1 in our last show. And
And I'm
Amy,
the squeeing fangirl.
he's been desperately waiting for me to finish each season so we can do these shows. So I have like one summary comment in my review of season 2, which is it goes further. Like I think
Yes.
it just go in everything. Like season 1 was great. Season 1 is pinnacle of like this kind of entertainment. It's fantastic. A great world building, great show. Season 2 just goes further in every way, I think.
It's just more of everything that makes the show so good.
I mean, I think I've got so many notes on why I think it goes further. I could go all over the place. Um, It goes further in terms of the format and experimentation of individual episodes. It goes further in plot developments, bringing in like key brand new characters, in particular Toph, having the whole plot arc at the end of the Earth Kingdom, etc. I mean, we'll get into all this kind of detail, but
The development of the existing characters as well, it really kicks up a notch.
if that's a very good point. It really does, and some of the themes, the themes that were kind of there in season 1, but for me, it doubles down on it and just takes the characters to more extreme lengths, and we learn more about them, and they go through more, including the existing crew, as you say.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it just goes further, and it's a joy to watch. Honestly, I know this. Maybe I don't know if the review would be more interesting if I had some negative notes, but I just really enjoyed the season. Um, I mean, I guess for me, it got better and better as it went on as well.
Yeah, definitely. It really builds up well.
I mean, some of the early episodes I love though. Um, I loved the was a Cave of Two Lovers. I thought that was an enjoyable character development show and had just lots of good humor in it as well. But yeah, it just so there's great individual episodes like that, and when
There
we
are really good episodes, even right from the start. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it just as you say, it just builds and builds. I, I mean, as I say, like so it goes further. So like, there's some individual episodes. I mean, I think the ones that I wrote down as being like the most like that were very different to what I saw in season 1. Really, there was the Tales of Bar Sing Se, which I've read since, and I've heard
Absolute
since is a
classic.
very acclaimed episode amongst fans, right?
It's one of the best. And emotionally, it's one of the strongest ones. And then immediately after that, as well, the episode following it, those two back to back.
That's the Lost Days of Appa, isn't it?
Yes, Appa's Lost
Um,
Days. But we'll get to that.
well, that's amazing because the second episode I've written down is going further was Appa's Lost Days. Um, yeah,
Those two episodes, I mean, my notes just have the titles of the two episodes in caps because I could do an entire episode on each of those.
we honestly could. I mean, that is the quality of the show, the kind of the depth of the characterization of the plot of the mythology behind it all. But just I think above all, they just connect on an. It sounds cheesy, but they just connect on an emotional level. I think.
They really do have.
I mean, yeah. There's
They
so
have
much like
such an emotional impact.
I mean, Uncle Iroh, his tale that that knocked me for six, like the ending of it, um,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I mean, the tragedy. I mean, but it's good. He does celebrate his son like every day, and you kind of think, well, is that the way he can just carry himself and be so generous, like given what he's carrying, was like really moving. But Appa's Lost Days, I mean,
Iroh is an amazing character.
he's an incredible character. But I think Appa's Lost Days on paper wouldn't have had the same an emotional impact on me. I like animals, but I'm not like a traditional animal lover. That kind of thing doesn't really get me going. If I see in the movie like Dogs in Trouble or something, but it's like Appa's Lost Days really affected me. It was just
Yeah,
trial after trial after trial. Um,
just to
it,
try and get back with the rest of them.
it, it's just heart. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Honestly, moments of that episode.
I think more so than the last season, this is one you kind of have to look at as a whole and take it in the order that the whole story is presented to really contextualize everything though. I don't think we could just dive into talking about Appa's Lost Days without the context of what came before it. So I think this time we're probably better off going through the overarching sort of narrative of the season and then going into detail as these things come.
Well, yeah. So, and funnily enough, that was one of the next point I wrote was so there was great individual episodes, but the way the plot developed, like from the start, and and
It's so well
the
woven
journey we're
together.
taking on. Yeah. I mean, let's get into that then. Let's get into that kind of let's get into that narrative then.
Mm. So it picks up right where we left off after the siege of the north, and you have Aang's in a bit of a state. This is where we first have him having issues with what he does while he's in the Avatar state,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and this is setting up a plot arc that leads all the way to the end of the season and to the conclusion of the season. This is one plot thread that runs literally from the very first scene to the very last scene of the season.
So that really does set a theme, doesn't it, for the rest of the season?
And and I love that it doesn't resolve by the end exactly as you might expect because of who Aang is and because of how he cares.
But you see Ang in general going through more of an emotional ringer, I think, this season. I mean, obviously there was like some real darkness he had to experience in season one. But yeah, like
Mm,
when the kind of weight of responsibility settling on him at the moment, but versus like what he's capable of as well.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's very well done actually, and so that's one of the major things going there. I mean, alongside that, you got the journey of Iroh and Zuko, in
Yeah.
parallel really,
Yeah.
and they go through a lot too.
And of course, Zuko's place from season one, we have him replaced in that role by his sister Azula, and there is so much to say about Azula.
I mean, I'd argue that. I mean, Zuko's a very strong character, but I didn't even in season one. I didn't necessarily see him as the traditional villain. I it was I think she's a much stronger villain than the Admiral from the end of season one. I think it's
Oh
fair to
yes,
say.
without a doubt. She's more manipulative and cruel.
Delightfully manipulative, like
Ugh.
entertainingly manipulative. If that makes sense.
So straight away at the start, you have her recruiting her own little sort of version of Team Avatar. Um, and I like the fact that she's the only bender out of the three of them. You get to see Ty Lee, who has training in chi blocking and is really acrobatic, and you've got May, who is very very good with knives.
But she has this, and they're so different as well. They're so well defined as characters. I mean, we were chatting a little bit about this before recording about the joy of the joy of her passiveness and her like blahness about everything.
Yeah, and meanwhile you have the counterpoint in Ty Lee, who is so you've got May's just complete disinterest in so many things, and
Mm.
then you've got Ty Lee, who just absolutely lives life to the fullest. Honestly, it's a very sort of yin yang thing with those two.
But it's fantastic to watch. It really really is.
Mm.
I
And
mean,
it's so
mm,
it really establishes Azula very quickly when we see how she goes about recruiting them. Because when she's recruiting Ty Lee, we see just how terrible Azula is and how manipulative. And you get to see this all right up front with how she treats her friends.
for sure. And you just know the stakes are higher. I think, like as you're gonna set forth, like it's gonna be a really big challenge to come up against.
Yeah. I would point out one thing before we go on there. One thing that I always notice when I go back to watch the very first episode, um, and this isn't something that's going to be relevant plot wise, for about 70 years in the Avatar universe, but the way they treat Sokka when they're leaving the Northern Water Tribe is this when everyone was asking where all of this sort of stuff came from in the main plot of season 1 of Korra, this is where it all comes from. They bring Team Avatar before them, and it's like, Katara, here's some water, spirit water from the North Pole
Mm.
with its healing powers. This is for
Mm.
you. Aang, here's some water bending scrolls. They'll teach you as much as they can, but you'll need a master who can properly train you. Sokka, take care of yourself, kid, and just walk off. There's no consideration for non-benders from them, and I think that nicely sets up like that and the fact that just after that we're getting introduced to like Ty Lee and like how amazing she is as a non-bender,
Mm.
um, and how much benders underestimate people who can't bend.
I think that's interesting because I mean the
That's a big
moment with
part of Sokka's
Sokka,
journey this season.
I mean the moment with Sokka, like we found it very funny when watching it. We thought it was a very funny like line, but we also thought, oh, that's quite mean.
Yeah,
Um,
it's an absolute dick move.
I think what I mean I've not seen Korra the follow up series, but
When you watch Korra, you will think back.
it sounds like it's really good attention to detail that small comedic moment has been like stored in the writer's minds as like this bigger, more serious point later on.
This is the thing that there are things like that that get overlooked, and that's a thing in real world societies as well. Like the way certain people will be demeaned and treated like that, and that can really come around and bite you later on.
It kind of goes back to that Tale of Two Tribes episode from season one, like this historic story, which is almost like a nothing incident at the time, but like has big repercussions really because of the without thinking through the consequences of it. So yeah, like I guess in at the very start of season two, there's all these things being thrown in the mix, aren't they? Um, and they know what they're doing in terms of what they're
And
setting up for the
season two
future.
is yeah, season two is all these plot points just slowly rising in the oven and then coming out
Yeah,
as just this delicious dish at the end of it.
I like your analogy. It's yeah. Well, it goes further. It goes further. It really does. I mean, having said that, I think the next batch of episodes after that, for me, were the most. And this isn't a criticism because I did enjoy them on their own terms. I think they're the most reminiscent of season one.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, obviously, physically you have them going back to Omashu, and you have a bunch of this of similar experiences, but through this new lens of like the city's fallen. You have Boomy being cryptic again.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, you have the setup. So you have, for example, the first confrontation with Azula's team, um, where they find out about Tylee's chi blocking abilities when she uses it on Katara.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, which is badass, which
That's
is terrifying but badass.
It really raises the stakes for the main characters because
Mm,
their bending does, except for Sokka, their bending really defines them.
yeah.
Of of course, one of the things about this season is Sokka trying to define himself, and that's going to be a thing over the next few episodes. But that really starts here at the beginning, um, and proceeds to develop with him. It's like, well, I'm trying to be Boomerang Guy, and
Which is
that
never
doesn't
gonna
really
go well.
take.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
then
you
he
can.
starts. Then he recognizes he can be Plan Guy.
Yeah, yeah, that's his niche, isn't it?
Mm,
And that works quite successfully, I think. Being plan guy, as you say. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, so you do get those themes of identity, obviously.
yeah.
Definitely come through for a lot of like, all the characters, really.
Especially with Zuko and Iroh's journey, which is a major theme of the season.
And what's interesting is, even though the journey arguably has less focus, I found it more engrossing.
You really, really appreciate the moments where the story turns to those two. Um, and it's not so much for what's happening to them in the moment, but it's for how it's delving into their characters.
I mean, actually, like the more I think about it, it's just coming to me now. Like the lack of focus is the whole point, really, because Zuko's working needs to work out what the hell he's going to do, like which side he's going to come down on, what he actually wants from life. And at the start of like the season, he's still thinking about the Airbender and restoring honor, isn't he? And I think
Yeah,
Iroh knows that's a fool's errand.
yeah. I understand why, yeah, the first few episodes are the closest to what season one was like. Like, you have the Avatar State, you have Return to Amashu,
Mm.
then you've got the Swamp. That's sort of, as a standalone episode, there's not as much to it as you might really want because it's mostly used to set up, like, as a narrative device to set up the search for Aang's earthbending teacher.
Yeah, I mean that was a
Interestingly enough,
yeah.
this is
Mm.
another place that's going to get a call back in the future because there's more of a connection between this swamp and Aang's earthbending teacher than you might expect. But I can't
Oh,
spoilers.
okay, okay. That sounds intriguing. I mean, I think yeah, I found that maybe the weakest episode, to be honest, the swamp. Um,
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I, I agree. They just could have made more of it. Um, the most interesting bit for me was the girl that Aang sees in his vision.
yes.
Um, well, as you say, it's set up basically. It needed to
Yeah,
make more of it.
that's the purpose that episode serves and not really anything else.
Yeah. Um, because I think like the following episodes, like just more happens within them to make
I
it
mean, the
enjoyable.
next episode, again, we have an example of Sokka trying to find himself, and an example of sort of your past coming back and the decisions you made coming back to affect you because that's Avatar Day.
Yeah, I mean, you shared a fantastic meme with me about this episode, and
There are
when we were
so
chatting,
many Avatar Kyoshi memes out there.
his excitement, Aang's excitement at getting the spirit to to prove what he's saying, and the spirit does the exact opposite. It's
Yeah, yeah. He summons Kiyoshi to testify to what really happened when the Avatar's on trial for killing someone, and Kiyoshi proceeds to boast about killing the person.
I mean, what I liked about it is, I mean that the whole ridiculousness of that, as you say, but also like it's showing us, it's deepening like the mythology, showing us what happened previously, but in a very accessible and like real way. Like it's a very easy, yeah, the whole conflict they had, the action between them. Um, yeah, because I think from memory, the death was because it was kind of like as a result of their fight, wasn't it? Or like this cliff falling down, wasn't it?
Yeah, when Kiyoshi severed Kiyoshi Island from the mainland.
Yeah, yeah,
This also had them go back to Kiyoshi Island, um,
yeah.
and the Kyoshi warriors from last time, they're off helping the refugees in this season.
I mean, that once again, that was an example for me of the show going further, like just very openly talking about like a refugee crisis. I mean,
Mm.
you're not in a really heavy-handed or overtly politicized way, but just showing you,
There's a
look,
war
there's a
happening. There are
there's
going
a
to be refugees. That's what happens when there's a war.
exactly. Um, they're just showing the refugees and well, I will talk about Ba Sing Se later, but the poverty of the city as well, like how not all's
Yeah,
great underneath the surface, kind of thing.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, so like Avatar Day is a good example where it's standalone, but it's deepening the mythology and like it's just entertaining as hell to watch, really.
yep. And I think that mostly acts as a nice sort of break between the swamp and the blind bandit, where we actually get the introduction of Toph.
Who is, I'm guessing, like I'm quite new to the series. I'm guessing she's a fan favorite character. Is that fair to say?
Yes, one of the absolute biggest fan favorite characters.
I mean, they
Her,
bring her.
Iroh,
She,
Avatar
yeah,
Kyoshi.
yeah, for sure. And she brings something new. That's why she's such a good character. It's something new, but not in an annoying way, in an endearing, entertaining way.
Oh, she can certainly be annoying.
But she's annoying in a true. But like, I found her like funny with it, like annoying the
Yeah.
other characters, not annoying me as the viewer.
I find it frustrating early on when she's very hostile to working as part of a team. But once we get to the point where she's actually teaching Aang earthbending, when she recognizes that actually maybe it makes sense to listen to Katara's insights on teaching methods,
Yeah,
that's her sort of softening up a bit more to the idea that, you know, maybe we do need to work together.
I mean, normally, when I see any movies or TV shows where they have this whole "will they, won't they" thing, so the person says, "Oh, I won't help you. Like, I don't do that anymore," and then you know they're gonna do it. You just know that the show's just wasting your time. Yeah, for some reason, I just with Toph's introduction, I just loved it from the introduction. I don't know why. I think the whole setup of this like earthbending fighting tournament just made it so entertaining to watch, really. And I think her resistance, like when they played it out when they went to her family, um, and like when she's like she's earth kicking Ang under the table and stuff like that. It
Yeah.
was just it was funny enough with it to get away with it. I thought.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I'm a big Toph fan though. I thought she was fantastic.
Funny fact about her. While she's the sort of classic trope of like a disability as a superpower,
Mm.
Ironically, I have her superpower as a disability. I can constantly sense all the vibrations of everything around me, and it causes me massive sensory overload. Um, so I have the exact opposite of her. I can do that, and it's actually quite incapacitating.
Oh dear. It sounds really glib to say, like, if you could find a teacher to help you master it for use in society.
uh,
Yeah,
but yeah, when it comes to her blindness, I like the fact that she's she's always like the one sort of making jokes about it at other people's expense.
yeah. And
I like
that's a
that they do that with
balance you
it.
have to get right, isn't it? You have to be careful of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. She's always the one who makes jokes at other people's expense out of it, and it's always so funny every time she does it.
It really is. It really is. We were laughing so much watching it. Um, I mean, there's tons of examples we could reel off. It's when they do it multiple times in an episode as well.
When Sokka's drawing the pictures and everyone's like not so sure that it really looks that much like Appa, and Toph's just like, oh yeah, it looks just like Appa to me, and Sokka's like, oh thanks Toph, and then everyone just pauses for a moment.
It's fantastic. Yeah. uh, doesn't Katara have a go at her when they get to the library and uh, she's like, how can you not be into? Oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah, books don't really do it for me.
It's so well phrased. Um,
uh,
I mean, just
yeah, I
going.
love her.
I mean, Toph's great, and it just works really well.
Yeah,
I mean, we then see there's a more Zuko centric episode next, isn't there? Yeah.
Zuko alone. I want you to remember, I want you to remember, just put it away in the back of your mind. Remember that ancient battlefield he rides through at the start of the episode with the giant earth coins everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah,
As in,
commit
remember it
that to
for
memory.
Korra, or remember it for season 3, or
Remember it for Korra. You will be
okay.
seeing that place again. Because rewatching this, when you first go back and rewatch this after you've seen a certain episode, you're like, oh, ooh, it's that place.
But that's not even a big detail in this episode, is it?
No,
So
it's a
that
tiny
implies
background
they
detail. It's something they presumably thought about it when they were writing the later episode. They presumably thought back to this and were like, let's make this significant.
yeah, or otherwise
I
it's
don't imagine they had a
remarkable
plan for it
prescience.
originally. I don't
Yeah,
imagine they had a plan for it originally, but it was something nice that they tied back. Um, but yeah, Zuko alone, it's really good because we get more of Zuko's past, and this also helps establish more of Azula's character. But also, like this is an expansion on the narrow bit we saw that Iroh outlined back in the Storm in season one. This goes way more into it.
yeah, it's the first time we. Well, I mean, Azula's been introduced, so understandably, it's the first time we've gone into their relationship a bit more. But yeah, like we start to get a lot more backstory, don't we? As you say.
And the importance of his mother in his life.
Hmm. And the lack of importance of the mother in Azula's life as well.
Mm, yeah. And also, we get more references to Iroh's past
I mean, I
from
spent
back
the
when he was
whole.
leading the siege of Ba Sing Se.
I mean, I spent about half the season 1 recap going on about Uncle Iroh and how amazing he is. but but yeah, it's just there's this like tragic outcome and that drove him away, don't you? I mean, well, you see that ramifications of that in this episode, don't you?
Mm.
Um, and it's just, I mean, you identify with him so much, really. Um, but then like the void, it's kind of like the family. What's the right way of phrasing it? You get that family politics really, and the kind of like battle for power within that family, that dynasty, is really interesting to see unfold, and it has massive repercussions on everyone within them.
There's as much war within the Fire Lord's own family as they're waging on the rest of the world.
Exactly. And that's what Avatar does so well in general. Like it just it's just not that black and white. There's always like these extra layers to it, like on every side. It just makes it so much more like thrilling to watch, really. Yeah, and you're always on edge, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
But yeah, this is all part of this build up of extra complexity to Zuko's character.
and
I do wish
mm,
that at the end of the season he remembered the most important lesson from this episode, but he doesn't. But I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that when we
we'll
get to
come
the
back to
end.
that. Okay.
Hmm.
I mean, I think the end of this episode, the backstory bit's like I think is the most interesting bit. Like for the because you learn so much. Like by this stage, you're like fully like engrossed in the Avatar's world. But what's it? I
Yeah.
still found like the end of in the present day, the end of the episode is pretty brutal. Like he's done this amazing thing and formed like quite a sweet bond with this boy in particular, and he's just rejected because of
Well,
his.
yeah, when they find out who he is and what he's done.
I mean, for someone who's already a bit tormented,
This is where he learns that redemption is a lot harder.
yeah, but it's also going to for someone who's already quite tormented. It's going to make it torment you even more. Really, it's just redemption is hard though. I mean, that is you have
Yeah.
to earn it.
But everyone except Uncle Iroh rejects him
Well, for now, I mean,
for
even
now.
Uncle Iroh by the end, yeah. But I guess this episode started to make me think. He is going to go on the right path. He's going to come into. He might even be in with the Avatar gang. Who knows? That's what I was thinking of this stage at this stage of the series.
And it does keep you guessing, doesn't it?
Mm, I have a lot of theories. just we just
Hmm.
getting into season three. I have a lot of theories. It really does keep you
Yeah.
guessing. So yeah, but I mean, I think the strength of the show is it can just break off and focus on a completely different character and not have to keep calling back to the main gang. They just have the strength to do that.
And the thing is, it can do those episodes, and all those characters can carry an episode.
Yeah, that's a very you're right, Amy. That's a really important distinction because other shows can do that. It's just totally uninteresting. Yeah,
So then we
but
have the chase,
one of my favorite
which
episodes.
it nicely helps establish Toph as part of the group. Like starting out with a bunch of grating between them, especially between her and Katara.
Yeah, it I I don't know. Like, I mean, you could say it's a bit cliche that the two female members of the group can't get along, kind of thing.
The
Um,
thing is, the way it's set up, it's all about them having different philosophies on life.
yeah,
Because of Toph's upbringing, she really values independence, not having to rely on anyone. Whereas Katara is from a perspective of which is more important to Team Avatar of you need to all be able to rely on each other's help.
yeah,
And Toph doesn't get that yet because that's not the background she's from. She's from a background where her parents tried to provide everything, and she wanted that independence.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And she doesn't see how that hurts everyone else.
Yeah, because Katara's kind of had to be the mother in their situation and to be the responsible one. So she appreciates having that like group to support her. And as you say, Toph's from a completely different background. That's a very good point. Um,
Overly protective parents who,
yeah,
and being treated like she always needs constant care and supervision, which again is a fairly accurate representation of a lot of disabled experiences.
yeah, yeah, and you can't really blame her for that either. I think, uh, or you can at least, or even if she should be more accepting of the group, and Uncle Iroh helps her realize that, you can at least like relate, understand where she's coming from.
Yeah, her encounter with Iroh there was a good one.
All encounters with Iroh are a good one. He's
They
fantastic.
are.
I mean, I wish it'd be great in everyone's life just dispensing wisdom and like cheering you up everywhere in the world. But so right,
Yeah.
I'll stop going on about Iroh
The
like season one.
episode the episode's really nice in that it also gives us some like nice cute animal stuff because of the way it centers Appa in it as being pretty central to the plot. And also it sets up just how relentless Azula is in her pursuit of the gang.
I mean, I think we talked a lot about the emotional side and the characters and things like that. I mean, I think what I was impressed by the chase was also the action side. Um,
Yes, yes.
and as you say, so you got Azula's like relentlessness, but like the way that's played out, and you can see it's almost like it's an action movie where you can see the characters being worn down. There's lots of
Yeah,
famous examples of that, of course. Like Die Hard's the most obvious one, but you can see them
yeah.
being
The
worn
way
down. And you
they're
can see the
gradually
physical effect.
just yeah, the way they're just completely sleep deprived throughout it, and yeah, because Appa's, having to stay awake the whole time and failing, whereas Azula's traveling in that big land train tank thing, and it just doesn't have to stop.
Yeah, I mean, they don't even tell you at the start who's. I mean, you can guess, but they don't even tell you who's in the land train. It's just this. It's like
Yeah,
this thing that's constantly chasing you. You don't even know what it is. You don't know
yeah,
how you can't
exactly.
reason with it. I mean, going back to the characters, like Toph, I correctly identifies why they're being tracked, but it's just
But it's very much the Terminator sort of setup. You just have this relentless machine coming after you.
yeah, but it does an incredible job of just keeping that pace and that fear up. I just think it works so well.
Yeah. And once they finally split up, um, you get the very entertaining showdown, like but between the rest of the group and like Azula's friends, and then you get the confrontation with Aang, where he's so completely worn down, but he waits there, and there's no way he's going to be able to beat her, but he just wants to make sure he gets the rest of them safe.
Which is why Azul is a stronger villain. Like that's why it's better pitched, I think, because yeah, you know he can't do it on his own. I mean, let's just say that action's great, like the relentlessness, the pursuit, the excitement of that, and also as you say, the showdown's fantastic. I mean, it's almost like a
And then the plot twist at the end,
like with Zuko and the other gang coming in to join in.
because
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so that's interesting, and that plays into the doubts about Zuko and Iroh and what's going on there, for sure. But it's almost like a Western showdown. You got
yeah,
Ang
the
like diving
settings, the
and
ghost
Katara
town
diving out of the way as
setting.
well. Yeah,
you see a lot of this throughout the Earth Kingdom. Like you see how the war has devastated a huge chunk of the Earth Kingdom as the Fire Nation have been pushing forwards into it.
And they don't. I totally agree, and they really don't hold back on that. I mean, you mentioned before about the city they were in with Boomy before, like that's been destroyed as well. Like once again with the ghost town, that's another good example of that.
Yeah.
And then we go into the bitter work episode, the earthbending training episode, basically.
That was nice, a nice little reprieve after the chase.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a reprieve. That's a good description. It's and it's just Sokka's antics are very amusing, I think, in this one.
Sokka in the hole. Toph is never ever going to let him forget that. And never going to let the world forget that. Just you wait.
I think when Aang's talking about feeling trapped and desperate, and like to Sokka who's stuck in a hole, like and
Oh,
literally is
it's
trapped to death.
beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I think I can kind of understand that.
Funnily enough, yeah. Um, and what it was quite interesting, like other people get this better than me, but it's just I, I saw how it was interesting how they talked about how difficult he found earthbending training because it's essentially the opposite of airbending, and
It's
it's
the
so
opposite
different.
element.
Yeah, and it's so different to what is all about the strength of your stance, um the willpower kind of thing, rather than clever the kind of the movements and the like cleverness of it or whatever. So it's quite
This is
interesting
part
how
of
Toph
what I
explained it.
like.
Mm,
Yeah, this is part of what I like. And we talked about hard versus soft magic systems. This is what I like about the world building. Like, Aang is so used to fluid, graceful movements that airbending and then water bending wasn't that too hard for him to get.
mm,
Um, but when it comes to earth bending, it's such a departure from that.
yeah.
And the thing is, you can't just immediately pick it up. This is something that needs to be learned.
Mm.
You can't just suddenly pick it up just because you're the avatar.
Yeah, it's an actual training thing process you have to go through. And Toph's training methods are delightfully harsh, I think.
Brutal.
Yeah. I quite like how she set up the really severe like lesson where he had to um im- basically he fails the first lesson, like he dives out of the way, and when challenged in that way, and like you do get other things where they go through that process, but it's just quite it just really hit home on what you just said there about he actually has to learn it. And then you've got Zuko in parallel learning about lightning as well.
Mm.
I mean that's a bit different. It's not that he's not willing to do it. It's just I love how Uncle Iroh turns around and says, what are you crazy? Of course I'm not going to teach you this. This is incredibly dangerous."
Yeah, it's like, well, obviously, I'm not going to try this out on you. I'm teaching you this in the hope that you never need to use it. But if you do, it could save your life. It's still a massive risk. I'm not going to put you at that kind of risk.
It's being
Yeah.
responsible. Yeah, I find that quite refreshing actually. You got all these shows where the characters are put into horrible danger, like on a week by week basis. I found that really funny when he said that. Uncle Iroh. Um,
Iroh's wonderful.
yeah. So, it's a nice reprieve. I think that's a good description of it.
And then Sokka has a plan.
And the next episode might
And it's a
be
good plan.
it. It's I'm not sure if it's it's maybe tied. It's almost my favorite episode of the season. Weirdly, the library.
Ooh.
I love the library. There's some qualifiers here I need to explain. I love owls in general. So like I was a sucker for this from the start.
I
Um,
really love owls, but there is a special place in hell for this owl.
well, here's the thing. I have sympathy for this owl. I mean, it's Wan Shi Tong. That's his like
Yeah,
official name, right? The spirit owl. He has a point. People come to the library. So Sokka has a plan, a very good, valid plan. They're doing it for the right reasons. But this owl spirit's been through this before. Like people go there and they use knowledge for their own gain. And even
yeah,
though it's for a relatively good purpose, Avatar, like Aang and the gang, like basically lie to the spirit, and they're doing exactly the same thing. Um,
yeah,
so I love the like overall message of that. Um, and I love the create, but it's just little things as well. Like I loved I like owls with weird reason I know. Also, it's just little things like when they find the tower of the library, which is huge, and that's like a
yeah. The
tiny
library's
portion.
enormous
That's a
and so many
tiny,
different
tiny bit of
top
the library
spires.
building. And if you just think about the enormity of like how big the building is underground,
And how big the desert is to have swallowed it up.
which yeah, and that comes back in the next episode when they're like wandering that desert. I mean, there's just so many little details like that I loved. Um, and I just found it like very creepy but intriguing like the whole way through. Um, I know it's probably not a traditional favorite episode. I don't know, but I just loved that the library episode.
Mm. And then we get, of course, the tragic moment with Appa when
I,
Toph can't save the
mm,
gang and save Appa.
that kind of sold the episode for me as well. So not only was it creepy and intriguing and like had this like bigger message, but it ended on that moment, as you say. Um, I mean, you don't often say that where some you have to sacrifice a character like in order for that to happen, and you don't. I mean, at the time, I didn't realize he was going to be properly gone. Like they were
You
going to have the
thought maybe
bravery.
next episode they'd track Appa down and everything would be back to the
Yeah,
status quo. Yeah, you
yeah.
expect that of a lot of TV shows, but no, they made this an arc for the rest of the entire season.
Yeah, and they don't even hint to where he could be for so long. I just found that and when you see Ang just with the tear in his eye right before he cuts the credits, it was just like they're not just sad, like he's hot, he's devastated by it. It's just
Yeah,
and this incredibly exciting action sequence I thought when they were escaping. So
yeah.
yeah, I enjoyed that episode very much.
And then they're stuck wandering the desert, and Aang's determined to find Appa, and they don't. You would expect that they'd conclude it at the end, they'd track down the sandbenders, they'd get Appa back, and they don't. And that's not how it ends.
You don't even really hint at where he could be. It was a really big break just to do that.
Mm.
Um, but very effective.
Meanwhile, while all this is going on, Zuko and Iroh's story gets a very interesting development. So, can I ask you, do you favor the White Lotus Gambit?
I want to play this game. It's Pie Show. Is that what it's called? I want to like just play this game, partly to
Fans
recreate
have
that
created
moment.
rules for it, and you can buy Pi Show sets. They're quite expensive because they're usually custom made.
So that implies that it's not a real game. The fact that fans have created rules.
Fans have worked it out from as much as has been shown in the shows.
I mean, I have to admit, like, if I played the game, I probably would just recreate
And
the
from
Lotus
existing
moment.
games that it's partly based on.
Mm. But I mean, but that's interesting because at the very start of the entire series, he's playing Pie Show at the very start, isn't he? Or a similar game.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
No, he loves playing Pi Show.
so he genuinely loves it. I think on like on a Like he enjoys the game and enjoying life as best he can, but also
This is the
it
thing.
kind of
He
hints to
was
his character. He knows more than he reveals. He's wiser and cleverer and more strategic than he let on from the very first episode.
he was a general in the Fire Nation army. He was leading the attack on Ba Sing Se. He's he's a master tactician, and like that is very much a thing that he likes because of how it connects into that honing your mind and planning and strategy.
Yeah, but he just does it on the down low. Like he just like he doesn't. It helps him strategically that he doesn't make such a big song and dance. Um, and
It's
yeah,
just
so I
something
think
that's really fun to him.
I mean the fact they make Kazuko wait outside is hilarious.
Oh yeah, Zuka's just like, nope, members only.
So
Wonderful.
it was wonderful. That was fantastic. Um, so yeah, so we still don't know what's happened to Appa, but there's this extra layer like with the Lotus subplot going on. Well, it's not even don't know if subplot's the right description, but anyway. But then what was interesting for me was it went to just to hammer home the message of that episode. The next episode is the Serpent's Pass.
Yes.
So
Where we get to see Suki again.
but what's interesting for me is this episode confirmed to me that Appa is gone. Like the fact they've just
Yeah,
moved on to a new tale is even more
yeah,
stunning.
they're
But yeah,
having to continue the journey. They have to get this message there. They can't waste time looking for Appa.
but yeah, Suki
They
as you
have a deadline now.
yeah, and as you say, Suki's back.
And this gives us a bit more of that Sokka development because you get to see how the experiences in the north have affected him, like emotionally, and you have the interesting clash of him feeling really protective towards Suki, but she's really protective towards him because at the end of the day, she is the better fighter.
Yes, it's sweet. And as you say, you learn a bit more. Well, you don't really learn. I mean, obviously he's upset about what happened at the North Pole, but yeah, it doesn't often the show doesn't often talk about those kind of feelings he has really. Um,
Yeah.
and you know, Suki's a great character. Or their relationship's great.
And of course, the only reason they're heading through the Serpent's Pass in the first place is because they just do the most Team Avatar thing and give up their spot to get through the regular way to some refugees. We
Yeah,
see the cabbage merchant again, another example of how things how things end up when you have people displaced by a war. You have the successful cabbage merchant. He's still trying to do his business, even in the current state of things with the war. Um, and yeah, even he's forced into this situation after being displaced from Omashu.
I mean, even when he
Got to feel
arrives,
sorry for the cabbage merchant.
yeah, even when he arrives in the city, he still has like misfortune against him. I remember like a quick
Yeah,
scene then. Um, yeah, so like what I found amazing was that this episode about a sea serpent, it comments on refugees. Um, uh, yeah, it's just you know, we shouldn't be that revelatory, but yeah, it's as you say, a very Team Avatar thing to do to give up their place. But just them waiting in line, trying to get through. That the hopefulness, the hopelessness of it, you know. Just being in the shoes of someone going through that experience, I think is a powerful thing to do, really. And you experience that
uh,
more obviously when they don't have Appa.
yeah. And they make it through the pass, and they're almost set to get into the city, and then And then fate throws one more little curveball in their way.
Well, little curveball.
Ah, it's a rather big curveball.
Wait, well, I'm guessing this is the birth. It's either the
I,
birth or the drill.
the drill.
I thought at first I thought it was a drill, then I thought oh, you could mean the birth actually, but yeah, the drill. This massive, massive, massive drill is a little curveball. That is fair
The
to
Fire
say.
Nation have come up with a way of getting through the walls of Ba Sing Se.
I mean, before the Wall of the North in Game of Thrones, like this is a really cool wall. It's a very once again like
It's a really cool wall.
yeah, I'm standing by that as a piece of critique, a valid piece of. I think it's so as well as the emotional moments, but we're kind of focusing on the emotions of characters and things like that. But also like the kind of setting, the action, that kind of stuff. So along
I
with
think I think we would best discuss the wall in the context of the whole city once they get into it.
yeah, it looks spectacular, and the drill itself looks spectacular. Yeah,
It's really
that's all
imposing.
I mean
Mm,
really.
yeah.
And obviously we find out the
Sokka
meaning
has a
later
good
on.
plan.
It, yeah, and the plan develops as they go along, really.
Mm.
So they got a good initial plan, and then they realize about
And then they
weakening the
have to
structure.
work on the fly
Yeah,
to adapt. Again, we're getting back to this sort of like Die Hard, sort of under siege sort of thing of these sort of action movies where the protagonist's constantly having to come up with new ways of dealing with it when you're in this tight enclosed space surrounded by enemies.
I mean it's interesting because it's a 20-minute show, well 25-minute show or whatever, but like so you think you could easily do a montage and go through it and just show it being done, but they really do show you like how bloody difficult it is. I mean, when they're like moving the water across to like chip away at each supporting structure, even when they say, right, we need to weaken each of the structures, it's still
Yeah,
obviously a huge amount of effort and work to do that. And even when they do that, there's a spectacular fight on top of the drill, and like it just takes so goddamn long and so much effort to finally do get towards the final blow.
yeah,
So it does have its action movie like thrills, and it understands like how it makes it so compelling and such a journey, really.
honestly, I think it really just sort of condenses and like distills what what's good about films like that in an amount of time that you could tell any of those stories in that amount of time. And quite often those films can feel a bit padded out to make it like the length of a film. And I think the episode here works really well to tell that story in that amount of time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I think it's
Um,
efficient.
yeah, and also the episode saying we're doing this big plot, but there's a big drill from the very start. You know what your objective is. There's that clarity of purpose.
And then with that defeated, they make it to Ba Sing Se at last. And that's where the entire rest of the season takes a night like it's a really interesting shift of pace.
Yeah,
Ba Sing Se itself, the city, it's a character in its own right.
I mean, what I found interesting was so with Appa, the length of time Appa disappeared and how he just vanished. That shocked me. The other thing that shocked me was when they finally make it to the city, Ba Sing Se, and things aren't resolved. Like they're just stuck there for a while. They have to like
Yeah.
learn to. Yeah, it's as you say, it's such a shift, and
And
it's such a
Toph's the
change of
only one
pace.
who understands this place.
I mean, you kind of you see that there's issues with the city, let's say. The kind of hierarchy, the poverty, the the tour guide, is that the right way of referring?
Their handler, yes.
Yeah, and you obviously see parallels with that in real life, of course.
I think a lot of what makes Ba Sing Se interesting is a lot of it is heavily it's like a medieval twist on the kind of mega cities you see in a lot of cyberpunk media.
Mm,
And this is very much a very medieval twist. You have like elevated passenger rail systems going around everywhere. Like not so much a monorail as a no rail
yeah,
using earth bending to propel it all around. And you
yeah,
have all that infrastructure, and then you have like the massive sprawling slums, and then as the you go in through the rings of the city, you get to the more prosperous areas and like the middle class area and the upper class area. um, and you find out how these walls are acting as a shell shielding the inner parts of the city from everything that's going on in the world outside. And that's when you start learning about the Dai Li.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. I mean, and what's interesting throughout all of this, including with the Dai is the Earthbenders are one of the quote unquote good guys. One of the good, but they have so many flaws and issues. Kind of like we saw with the North Pole
Yeah.
group at the end of season one. I mean the Dai I mean, what I love about the Dai is that he's the one with the power. Um,
But,
and for a long time, I thought that the Earth King didn't really exist. It was like the Wizard of Oz. Like, as my wife said, it was like the Wizard of Oz. It's not a real thing. Spoiler alert.
but no, you actually have a puppet monarchy that's kept completely oblivious through very careful filtering of the information that the Dai Li allow through.
Um, very very relatable, I think, to the real because I understand what you mean by the cyberpunk side, but a lot of it really does make you think of real life as well in a slightly depressing way. Um,
Huh.
maybe not to that extent, I know, but yeah. So the Dai is a pretty chilling character, I think.
Well, the Dai Li's the organization.
Oh, sorry. I'll cut that out. Long Feng, the head of the Dai is very,
Yeah.
very chilling, I think. And
It's nice
The Dai
setting up
overall,
another villain. It's nice
mm,
setting up another antagonist within the group that they're trying to make an alliance with.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It just complicates things. It takes things further. It really does. I mean,
And meanwhile, you have Iroh and Zuko making their way in the city, and oh, it's heartwarming as someone, as a fellow appreciator of tea. Everything that happens with Iroh there. Ah,
yeah. um, it's fantastic. It's and it's an important contribution, I think, to city life. He's needed.
so we get this slowdown in the pace where they know stuff's going on, they know they have a goal, but they can't quite accomplish it. It's being frustrated. And that brings us right into Tales of Ba Sing Se, which I'm sure you have a lot to say about it. I'm going to let you say everything you have to say about it.
Yeah, it's just obviously there's a experimentation of just having individual like mini like tales like in order, like not done like a traditional
Mm,
episode. So the changing the format, of course. I mean, the standout for me was Uncle Iroh's episode, um,
yeah.
and it really. I mean, it obviously hit me a lot emotionally. At the end, like the tribute to his son, and I mean, it's just really, really moving and very well done. And it really did hit me for six. But
Yeah,
even the moments before that, where this guy tries to rob him, and then he tells him off for his attacking style, and he just those little moments throughout, and the way he chased up that boy and all that kind of stuff. It's just very well observed little vignettes of of life in the city, and like how he uses his time, and
Ira
how
just
he
helps everyone.
and the kind of deeper meaning is he helps everyone because he says he couldn't help his son, which is like so tragic. But I think he does just help everyone because he's that kind of person as well. Um, and to have the generosity to do that when he's been through that tragedy and like the difficulties in his life and everything. I mean, that was really. I mean, I just thought that tale was like superb and really moving and
Mm.
very clever and intriguing. I mean, but it was a very. There's so much to say about it. I mean, just by its nature, because of the amount of things that are going on. I mean, you see Katara and Toph like having a bit more bonding, is that or understanding
Yeah,
each
they
other a
get
bit
to
more,
have a
maybe.
spa day together, and yeah,
I mean, I quite liked. It sounds silly, but I quite liked Aang building the zoo. I just thought it was a sillier, maybe one of the silliest moments in it, but it was
it's
just
the most light-hearted story of the episode.
but it's just it's just the way it was envisioned and the zoo that's created is yeah, it's lighthearted, but it's entertaining and
Yeah.
it just it makes sense like how where it ends up really. I think Z- Zuko's date it was interesting. I thought
Mm.
it's pretty gutting at the end of the night um, where they didn't he kind of backed away kind of thing, but it's still important moment for him. Um, but yeah, it was just like random tales really. It was just showing like we're in the city, we're staying here. Um,
And then Momo's story,
that's the one that hints towards a wider plot, I guess. It was
that's
Momo's
also the
story.
one that's also the one that's like everyone else is going off and doing their things, and Momo's the one still looking for Appa.
Yeah,
And that's just ah, and it's heartbreaking when you get to the end and Momo thinks, oh, maybe I found Appa, and it's like, no, no, I haven't, and curls up to go to sleep in the footprint.
I'm just getting sad thinking about it.
I
Like
know.
I mean, that image like is imprinted on you, isn't it? It
And
really
that's the
is.
first moment you realize, like, it's been this long and we've still not seen Appa, and we might be about to see Appa again. And then we get Appa's Lost Days.
I mean, Netflix very helpfully said next episode, Appa's Lost Days. So it's like, okay, we're gonna find out what happened. But yes, yes, for sure. Um, yes, Appa's Lost Days. Like I didn't expect it to, but that really emotionally affected me as well. Um,
It does.
it really did. Um, I'm not like, yeah, I like animals and everything, but I'm not the kind of traditional animal lover who like is immediately emotionally invested like with any animal being involved or whatever. But just a tribulation, the trials like he just constantly goes through.
And Appa's part of the team.
Mm. And that's how he views himself. That's his desperation to get back. It's just it's just horrendous, really. It's horrendous, but it's also quite it's weird at the very start. You're seeing the exact same scene that we've seen at the library several episodes ago, but just from a
Yeah.
lit. You just but he just keeps following Appa. It's really strange. It's like Like this was happening the exact same time, but we just focused our attention on the tower at the time.
Yeah, it's 5 episodes back now at this point.
I mean, I might be getting like too deep, like like in my reading of it, but like when he's at the circus and the Fire Nation boy shows him kindness and helps him get food and stuff, despite
Mm.
his parents scolding him, saying, "Oh, don't move." You know, the kids are all innocent, and it's a society that's bringing them up that's going to turn them into set them on the wrong path, kind of thing. Like the ultra disciplinarian, controlling nature of that society, but like
I mean,
there's still goodness in the world.
this is something you've seen with partly with like Zuko, but also it's something that we'll probably see it come back to in season 3.
Ooh.
Um, but yeah, the like a lot of what's wrong with the Fire Nation is like ingrained cultural things that in how they like instill people with that sort of like nationalism and exceptionalism from a very early age.
Yeah, yeah, and even when it's not nationalism, it's like if you like if you encourage people to be if you socialize someone into having a certain mind frame and like having a closed mind, basically, that the children are fine. Like there is society that's setting them off on the wrong path and corrupting them.
Mm.
Yeah, so like it's just little moments like that were like quite powerful, like, and they're just like really briefly, nicely done. Um, I just like when he's in the fight with that what would you call it? A porcupine. Like I had to like Google it to remind myself of the name.
Yeah,
Like it's a horrendous creature. Like it's terrifying. But so he gets porcupine spikes in him. Um, but there's no like easy resolution once again. Like he is just injured and in pain, and no one's there to help him. It's just
yeah,
like
no one's there to look after him.
it's just a quick skirmish, like out of nowhere. It's just one of those random things that happens, and you just pay. It's just horrendous. It really, really is. Poor Appa. That's all I can say.
Yes.
And he's just so happy when Suki and the others are there to find him.
Oh, it's so good. It's
Uh,
so good. Those
the
like
bit
the
that
Kyoshi warriors showing up.
yeah, the bit that knocked us out, and when we were watching it was so the fight ensues and they help Appa escape. Like Suki and the Kyoshi warriors take on the fight against Azula et al. But then like you see the fight about to partway through it just stops, and they don't tell you what happens.
Yes.
And it just moves away, and then it just once again like they just go. The season just goes further for me. They're just willing to do that, and leave you on the total edge, not knowing what the hell's
Yeah.
happening. So then we meet the person who we learn to be the guru, basically.
Yes. Yes.
And he's like, I mean, you see Appa like he's gone through so many bad experiences. He takes a while to trust this mysterious stranger. Um, it's quite sweet how he like I think doesn't he like mimic being asleep and things just to get him to trust him, and it's just nicely done, that relationship. And then you start to learn more, like this new characters introduced, and we're starting to learn more about the world and where the story's going, really.
Yeah.
And then he finally makes it to the goddamn city, and then
Finally makes it to Batsing City and he hears the whistle.
that's horrendous. Like you think, oh, brilliant, and then you see who's blowing the whistle. Oh my god.
And
Yeah,
Appa lands and makes the footprint. And then Ah, heartbreaking.
It really, yeah. I mean, just talking back with you, Amy, like it really does show how much through the ringer you go. Well, when it's horrendous just thinking about it now. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know if it's happier, but we're then back with the group.
You are
Um,
still looking for Appa. And we also get more of some other characters who we saw a bit of earlier in the season, who were
mm,
introduced in the first season.
well,
Because
so
we
Jet,
we have
Smellerby,
Jet. Hmm.
and Longshot.
Speaking of Smellerby, in the episode earlier in the season that revealed her gender, there was insufficient firebending because we all know if it's not a proper gender reveal until you've burned down the entire kingdom.
Yeah, he just sunk in there. That was gender reveal, wasn't it? Yeah. It's nicely done and understated, I think. Well, because no one burned down the kingdom. Uh, yeah. I mean, I love the reintroduction. Um, I thought that was nicely done. Um, it made sense really.
You really see how the war is going when you see how many of the various characters at this point have been making their way with the refugees to Ba Sing Se, how it's the last holdout against the Fire Nation.
And you mentioned that analogy about Zoven heating up over the course of the series, and yeah, it's like you can feel the pressure rising. Like all the major players, all the like minor players, whatever, they're all converging in this like this place with his
You
own
have all
problems
the
already.
ingredients, you've put all the ingredients in, and you've baked it for an entire season, and you're about to taste the delicious results of all of that.
I like that. Yeah, excellent. So yeah, so that's done really well.
More Dai Li plotting.
Yeah, for sure. Um, a pretty cool lake. Not the lake itself, but like the way of entering and I mean,
Yeah.
my God, they would never have found it had they not had the tip. They really wouldn't have done. Like, it's not even in the proper city, really, is it? It just shows like things don't just get resolved because you're in the right place. You really have to work for it. Um, and I think is this when Jet's like gone undergone the brainwashing
This
treatment?
is when Jet's
Yeah,
been taken in by the Dai Li, turned into a sleeper agent for the Dai Li.
yeah. And then like just when you think they're getting close to Appa, then like Zuko becomes involved. You still don't know where he stands. I mean, I was still really hopeful he was going on the right path at this stage, you know?
Yeah, and
Um,
Iroh finds out what exactly Zuko's been doing in that mask.
yeah. I mean, it's a really cool mask. So then there's more overt conversations, more open conversations about the conflict within Zuko, and Iroh's getting involved in that. Actually, Zuko is kind of the hero in a way with Appa.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
doesn't he
which
doesn't
is
really get the
how the
credit for
gang
that
managed
either.
to escape,
Yeah,
because the gang all fall into the trap, but because Zuko ended up freeing Appa beforehand, Appa's able to rescue them all.
I mean, I almost feel sorry for Zuko because when he does do something good, like earlier on with the Earthbending family, he helped her and stuff. He doesn't really get the credit for it. Not that
Mm,
that's not a reason why you should do good stuff. Maybe that's a lesson of the show, but you know, he's already pretty tormented.
yeah,
He's not really getting. He's not. really getting any credit or like getting any love really when he does do good stuff, you know? Maybe credit's the
Mm.
wrong word, but kind of like any positive reinforcement kind of thing. Um,
Mm.
I mean, and the thing with Jet, the thing with Jet's horrendous. Once again, like
When
we don't.
Toph, as they're leaving, when Toph tells Sucker that Jet was lying.
Yeah, another heartbreaking moment. And then it just moves on. Like you don't necessarily see him perish or anything, but yeah, it just Toph's comment, as you say, and
Saying
you
that
know,
he's fine. That's a lie.
yeah, it's horrendous. It really, really is. So yeah, there's some real stuff going down now at this stage. Um, and then the next episode, we
But it just
finally,
keeps going because they
yeah,
just storm the Earth Castle, the Earth Palace. And this is when they find out the Earth King has no knowledge of what's going on because of the Dai Li.
I mean, as I say, I was shocked there was an Earth King. So that shocked me. I honestly thought there'd be no Earth King whatsoever. But yes, we see the Earth King. And he's just a bit of a. Is he a dunce? Is he out of touch? He's definitely out of touch.
He's definitely, yeah. I mean,
He's a,
this
yeah,
is because of all the manipulations of the Dai Li. Again, he knows as much as they let him know.
yeah, yeah. I guess there's some sympathy for him to an extent, and that's. I mean, I kind of lack some sympathy because I didn't feel he made enough of an effort to care about his citizens or what was really going on. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was a clear shock to him when he went on a train or whatever. He
I
still
mean,
like,
this is the problem. I mean, this is a problem like with with monarchies essentially at their core anyway, but it's quite it's quite exacerbated here.
and you can see why the city's in the state it is. Like you really can. Um, but yeah, so he's there. He's just like not very useful. But yeah, and, you know,
Yeah.
he's being controlled, as you say. He is being controlled.
And it takes them the entire episode to get the information to him and convince him of the truth. They have to show him the drill.
And it was getting ridiculous. It's like, this very conceited, manipulative guy, like who's clearly trying to mess you about. Can you still not? You still believing him over us, kind of thing. It was,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, thank God they finally saw sense. He finally saw
Yeah.
sense.
Although having him arrested by the Dai Li was not the smartest move.
Yeah, yeah. He's not the best at those kind of politicking, is he?
No.
He really
But at
isn't.
this point, they find they find the missing information, like the fact that the Dai Li had intercepted all the letters for them, including the one from the Guru about teaching Aang to control the Avatar state,
Yeah,
which has been his big problem right back to that first episode.
and even then, like when they handed over the letters, we were really unsure when we were watching it about is this real? Like, what's going on here? Kind of thing. I guess that letter, that was the actual message from the guru about the Avatar state, and you know that major things are happening now. It's like a world away from the first few episodes of the season. Um,
Yeah. And now they're going to split the party this close to the climax, and they're going to split the party, which every D&D player knows you should never do.
it's just
But
common
yeah,
sense. Yeah,
Toph's got a letter from her mother saying she's in the city.
yeah.
Sokka and Katara have intel sending them to their father,
Mm.
and Aang has the information on heading to the guru to learn about the Avatar state. And all of this is nicely capped off. We know the city's going to be fine in all of their absence because the Kyoshi warriors are here.
It's just like it was so yeah, it just pulls the rug from under you. It really does. It's like
Oh,
it was almost like for Avatar, this is just too convenient. This is too nicely wrapped up and set up, so you know something's going to happen, and then it's horrendous. It really is. My wife called that straight away as soon as they said, "Oh, like you can trust these people who are coming into your city." But yeah, it was a total shock for me.
but yeah,
Did you?
we never saw how that battle ended.
Well, we can infer it though, can't we?
We know now.
I mean that's even more brutal. Like just the implications for what it meant about the battle. Just as a quick side comment, you got the parallel plot with Zuko's illness, and I jokingly
Yes.
said when he first fell ill, I jokingly said, "Oh, he's being ill just because he did a good thing for once."
Huh.
And then you find out that actually is why the hell, that's seriously why he's ill. Um, but yeah, it's quite interesting, and like it's interesting how the manifestation of his like the thing in his dream. So there's a blue dragon, there's a red dragon. That seemed significant in some way. Um,
Mm.
I don't know, maybe not. Um, we'll see. But yeah, so then we go into the next chapter 19, the Guru,
Yes. Yes.
and yeah, we're getting into the Avatar state, as you said before. Like we're properly understanding it. We're learning a lot more now.
You're learning a lot as well about, funnily enough, this is how you learn how Ty Lee's abilities work because of the blocking of chakras impeding the flow of chi in your body, impeding things like bending.
Yeah,
And with Ang, oh, his are very clogged.
so that which is nice actually. It's a nice way of describing it, and you can kind of get your head around this like this magic like side of things, how the magic works. So yeah, he's a great character, the Guru as well. It's great to see them learn about this together. It's a nice guide to that kind of the Avatar site, that kind of the more spiritual element. Um,
Also, can I just say onion and banana juice? It's a great way of evoking just, oh, your stomach just turns at the thought of it.
oh God, it really really does. And then of course we find out about
I mean,
we seen from the end of the episode before this danger coming, and then Katara
I mean,
blows the
we've not even gone on to what's happening at the time with Katara and with Sokka.
yeah.
So with Sokka, he's able to see his dad again, and that's he's really grown up since they last saw each other.
He really really has. Um, and it's a shame that he's like pulled away from that moment with his dad. They haven't been away
Mm,
for so long,
yeah.
and
But his dad just immediately respects him. And here's the thing, he gets a lot of the respect from his dad that he doesn't get from a lot of the Benders.
yeah, then that means a lot to him. It really does. I
Yeah.
think that's a really good point. I was just gutting though when Katara blows the cover of Zuko and Iroh. It really is gutting, like especially when Iroh's found that happiness with the little life he set up.
And the worst part is, like, Katara's just gone and set up everything to do the plan for the invasion on the day of the Black Sun. And then she finds them. And of course, who, who does she want to go and tell? that Iroh and Zuko are in the city. Who does Katara want to go and warn?
It's horrendous. Yeah,
Ah,
it couldn't be any worse, really. So yeah, they really do put you through the ringer when watching it. Um,
and yeah, and then Aang makes the decision at the end of it when he sees she's in trouble while he's connected there, and he sees that, and this whole season is about has goes back to at the start his fears over not being able to control the avatar state, and then at the end when he has a chance to learn to control it, he can't make that he cannot decide to let what's happening to Katara happen,
I mean, what?
and he picks saving her over mastering the avatar state.
I mean, it's quite. It felt very much like Star Wars to me, like the whole, you must complete your training thing with Yoda. But I think what redeems it a little bit from being like a copy of that is it's there's that relationship between him and Katara, and later on, Uncle Iroh suggests that it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like wanting to like save someone is a positive thing.
Yeah, this is the thing. His connection to them is where he gets his strength. He doesn't need this like cosmic connection and a
Yeah,
detachment from them. He can use that connection to them as a source of strength instead of just the tremendous power of the avatar state.
yeah, exactly. Um, so then we go to the final episode.
The finale, yes.
So yeah, a lot of stuff happens. And it's a great finale. I think it really is. I mean, the finale of season one was excellent. I think this one is you just have to play out everything that's been built up. Really, um,
Yep.
like they've set it all up perfectly.
So Azula's carrying out her master plan.
And Azula's gonna be on top there, don't you? You really do.
Yeah. Toph, we missed out Toph mastering a new form of bending.
Which is great that the when she's mastering it, it's the reasoning they give behind that. I think works, and it shows us new possibilities and what you can
That's
achieve.
that's the thing again about that's the thing again about hard magic systems, that there is enough room to explain new things, but they have to be consistent. And of
Yeah,
course, yeah, metal and earth, and yeah, Toph feels within the metal and finds what it and the earth have in common, and yeah, and so yeah, Toph's on her way back, Sokka and Aang are on their way back, and in Ba Sing Se, Azula has basically taken over the city. She's running the Dai Li now.
and it's amazing just to see the last stronghold like just fall, as you said before. And the way they talk about it. It's obviously a massive deal. The Fire Nations finally got control of the Earth's kingdom's capital.
But that final confrontation at the end there, so you had expectations when it came to Zuko, and how did that play out?
uh, Zuko is so frustrating. Why didn't he? Yeah. I mean, it was interesting, wasn't it? I mean, the traditional thing would be that Zuko would eventually. It was really interesting because not just was it he he's obviously got his father issues. He is desire to find his place, but it was not only that he's betraying Uncle Iroh, which makes it even worse, really. Um,
And the thing
It's
was,
such a massive impact.
everything in this episode builds up like to Zuko siding with them against Azula. It all builds up to that. You have Katara offering to use the water from the Spirit Oasis on his scar. You have you have everything with him being so happy with his life with Iroh,
Yeah,
and that gets ripped out by Azula.
yeah.
And yeah, all of this.
Mm. It was an incredible moment, and then when he goes into the Avatar state, um, and Azula takes him down. It just
Yeah,
it's a beautiful moment when Katara zooms in to like desperately save him. Um, and then Uncle
and Iroh steps
yeah,
up to try and give them time to get away.
yeah, and that was just a perfect ending. That's a perfect way that fight should culminate, I think. Where
Such a betrayal.
yeah, so he's still reeling from that betrayal, from what's happened. Um, but you can see
And
that the
I will bring
mm.
back up what I said probably probably about an hour ago now.
Yeah.
Zuko forgot the most important lesson he learned as a child. Azula always lies.
Okay. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. And that caps off a fantastic season. It really, really does. Um, it just
Incredible.
it's just great. So much builds up, so much happens. Um, but the characters and the journeys they go on are fantastic throughout. The action's fantastic throughout, and yeah, it just goes further. I think. It just really it's a fantastic season, and I really enjoyed it. Very simply,
And
and
we've still
y-
got one more ahead of us.
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, and I have started watching it, and I can't wait to do the next episode about it. I understand some of the things you're talking about, in particular about the Fire Nation and and how that society is controlled. Yeah, so I can't wait to do season 3. But yeah, what a fantastic show! What a fantastic season!
Season 2 is such strong storytelling with such good character development.
Excellent. What a great! It's been great to relive that trip. I think, Amy, it's been great.
I
Um,
mean, it tells you how good it is that this episode's about twice as long as our one on season 1.
yes, I mean, some of the individual episodes we could have talked even longer about, honestly.
Oh, we could have gone into them in even more detail. But that's how much you care about these episodes of this show.
Well, thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you for having me
And we
around again.
will, and everyone listening in, thanks so much. Leave us a comment. Tell us any moments that you found really powerful that we've not mentioned, although I think we've covered a lot, haven't we? It'd be great to hear your thoughts, and watch out for the season 3 one. Take care.
Bye bye, everyone.